Okay. All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Monday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Batter's Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, hudcoroofing.com, ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com, and Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com. 1 second. Get that right. Okay. There we go. All right. I hope everybody had a great weekend. NFL playoff wildcard weekend wrapped up. Well, actually wraps up today for Monday Night Football. Cowboys at the Bucks. But what a wacky weekend we had. Joey B and the Bengals survive. Needed an improbable, stunning defensive score. If you weren't watching the game, game was tied at 17 in the fourth quarter, and Ravens are driving and they're at the goal line, and Tyler Huntley tries to do the Drew Brees up and reach. Well, he doesn't get to the goal line. The Bengals knock the ball free, and Sam Hubbard runs it 98 yards for a touchdown. That was the difference in the ball game. The Ravens did have a shot one last drive, and had a pass into the end zone that was tipped and hit a receiver's hands on the way down. Didn't catch it, but the Bengals survive. Giants beat the Vikings. That was one of our predictions. Thought the Vikings were a fraudulent team all year. The Giants are well coached and showed it again. And Buffalo eked past Miami. It's hard to win in the playoffs, man. Tip of the cap to Jimmy Ott and his crew. They had a perfect weekend. They were on San Francisco to win and cover. That hit. They were on Jacksonville to win outright, which hit. Miami with the points. Giants to win outright. Ravens with the points. So we'll see if anybody's got a play on tonight's ball game. But so far, very impressive with what they've been able to do. All right, y'all, YouTube, smash that like button. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so yet. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. We appreciate y'all for being here. As always, say some good mornings. Anything y'all got, you know the drill, fire away. Truax, good morning. Kelly Gross, Quentin Breakbill, Brian Penton, good morning from Lawrence, Kansas. Did you attend the ceremony yesterday for Simone Augustus? I did not. So Erica's been under the weather. She's been pretty sick. So I basically have had Drew kind of solo for the past 3 days while she basically just sleeps and takes medicine. And so trying to get her through this virus, whatever it is she's got. But no, I did not. But I did watch it. They were streaming video of it. Simone was crying, and it was pretty moving. But she's deserving, man, incredibly deserving. She made a collective fan base largely care about a sport that hadn't really cared about before. To put it very bluntly, I mean, there were moments, fleeting moments of success, but under the late Sue Gunter, who had a lot of postseason teams and just never really broke through to the national elite, and Simone did that. So, yeah, very, very deserving. And we talked about it yesterday. I said, man, I didn't know what the statue was going to be, but I said, man, if it's anything other than, her raising up at the elbow, like it would just, when I think of Simone, that's just what I think. That mid-range jumper, just her raising up at the elbow in front. And sure enough, that was the pose. I mean, what else could it be? Kenneth Westbrook, Nicole Haverd, Ron Ritchie, Megan Harris, Michael Cook, good morning. Jump over here to YouTube. Tim Gotro, Strong Side, good morning. Jordan Coleman, these games have been top tier. Matt, love the playoffs. It's definitely what separates the NFL from everything else, right? If you are one of the teams that gets into the playoffs, by and large, you are a really good team. The margin in the NFL is so slim to begin with. And when you get divisional opponents in the playoffs, um, you're facing a team now for the third time, and when you know a team that well, you know their tendencies. It's really, you know what they're trying to do. They know what you're trying to do. It really becomes about execution. So, like, it's not surprising that Miami and Buffalo was close. Um, it shouldn't be surprising that Cincinnati and Baltimore is close. You know, you come to expect that with the playoffs games like that. Samuel Smith, Matt, who's your breakout wide receiver choice for next year? We talking LSU? We talking Saints? I would assume you're probably talking LSU. Well, I mean, you'll have Malik back, who's a 1,000-yard receiver this year. And you'll have Brian Thomas returning as well, Kyron Lacey. The issue is to define breakout. You know, I would probably submit to you that one, you know, would probably be one of the freshmen. Now, I'm going to be interested with what happens with Chris Hilton, because I know he has that big playability, but it was a freshman, was a little overshadowed, didn't really get the reps, and then this year was hurt. So, be very curious to see if Chris Hilton's healthy and ready to roll. Otherwise, I might go. I'd probably go Shelton Sampson. Scott Loom 12. I had a laugh last night when the announcer said Apple is the Bengals' best defender. Eli Apple, of course. Brad David, the NFL product is so good. That was a great weekend of football. Really was. I mean, you know, and there are a lot of people I know point out whenever the college football playoff yields a blowout. That they point out, excuse me, they pointed that you don't see that in the NFL, but if you actually go back and look at, you know, Super Bowls, Niners beat the Broncos by 45, the Bears beat the Patriots by 36, the Cowboys beat the Bills by 35, Seahawks beat the Broncos by 35, Redskins beat the Broncos by 32, Raiders beat the Redskins by 29, Ravens beat the Giants by 27, Bucks beat the Raiders by 27, Packers beat the Chiefs by 25, Niners beat the Chargers by 23, Niners beat the Dolphins by 22, Bucks beat the Chiefs by 22, Cowboys over the Dolphins by 21, Packers over Raiders by 19. You know what I mean? So you've had the majority of your Super Bowl wins have been two-score games. The majority have been two-touchdown games. You know, the single-digit margins of victory (21 of the 56 Super Bowls have been decided by single digits, 9 or fewer points. 21 of 56. Which means 35 of them have been double-digit margins of victory. So, anyway, all that to say, we do see that sometimes in the Super Bowl. By and large, yes, the playoffs are fantastic. Bailey C. wish the Saints had Daboll, probably the coach of the year. How about Brian Daboll? What a difference that made, right? I mean, keep in mind the Giants didn't even pick up Daniel Jones' fifth-year option. They were not convinced he was good enough to be a franchise quarterback. And you give him good coaching, and look at he looks. I mean, he loaded up the Giants on his back. I mean, Daniel Jones looks like a franchise quarterback. He looked awesome. He's looked good all year. He looked awesome yesterday on the road playoff game against Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. Let's see, Green Z. I know you mentioned people pushing for Sue Gunter's name to be added to the PMAX court. Did you hear Kim Mulkey Saturday's press conference? I did not. Did she mention it? I hope not. Nikki C picked to win the Super Bowl. Boy, the all season, the Bills and the Eagles have really just been, kind of, ahead above everybody else. The Eagles with Jalen Hurts' injury, though, really gives me pause. If Jalen Hurts is healthy, I'd pick the Eagles. I don't know if he is, though. And I don't know that there's any team out of the NFC that can beat any of Kansas City, Buffalo, or Cincinnati, except for Philly with a healthy Jalen Hurts. But don't know that Jalen Hurts is healthy. So I'd probably coin flip it with those three. I think Cincinnati has a really tough draw this week, having to go to Buffalo. So I'd probably look at a Buffalo, Kansas City, and an AFC Championship game, obviously, which would be played in Atlanta. And I think I'd take Mahomes. And so I think I'd go KC, man. Reed Rule, morning Scone. After Lamar not traveling with the team for the game, how bad is the situation could he get in Baltimore? That's a great question, Reed. I can't give you any personal insight into it, but my assumption all along has been they won't reach a long-term deal, but they'll franchise him. But boy, Tyler Huntley looked pretty good yesterday. They're gonna have a decision to make if they think Huntley can be, the guy to lead their franchise. But that'd be awful tough to pass on a former league MVP, in his mid-20s, and just let him walk. So, Weston Weaver, Joey Metke, Jason Mobile. Glad you discovered the Hashwell at Nike stores. They often run an extra 20 or 30% off. If you can give them an email address, you can get an additional 15% off. That's good to know. I didn't know that, Jason. Yeah, so I scored a couple pair at the Nike outlet at Tanger on Saturday. It was crazy. It was like I got 2 pair for $100. They were like 45 each, and then obviously with tax. Green Z. Mulkey said you basically shouldn't get rewarded for longevity. Was curious if you think Mulkey is not in the camp for renaming that court again. So first of all, Kim Mulkey has never shied away from giving an opinion. So I think if she did have an opinion on the matter, or she might, I think she would give it publicly. She's not the ones that are sort of campaigning for that. If you missed it on Friday, we did talk a little bit about that. So over the summer, this kind of went unnoticed over the summer, but over the summer, there was a piece in Tiger Rag where, which basically laid out the fact that there are people campaigning for the renaming of Dale Brown Court. Less than a year after they named it Dale Brown Court, they were pushing to add Sue Gunter's name. I think this is a terrible idea, by the way. You went through a process, a voting process. You approved it, you did it, and then a few months later you want to change it? That's bogus. What's also absurd is that during the voting process, there was a proposal to co-name the court after Dale Brown and Sue Gunter, and it was defeated overwhelmingly. I think it was maybe 12-3 against. I mean, it was not even close. And I brought it up on Friday's AFR because there are people around LSU who are starting to try to garner support quietly for the renaming again. And I'm here to tell you, like, there's going to be a big old messy fight if that proceeds, and it doesn't need to. It just, my hope in talking about it Friday was that it quiets those people who are the ones pushing for that. It makes them realize, hey, this isn't the fight that you need to pick. Um, Sue Gunter died in 2005. Dale Brown is 87 years old. Um, he didn't ask for the honor. It was something a lot of people pushed for and got done. And to now, at this point in his life, honor him and then summarily dishonor him less than a year later is just, it's embarrassing is what it is. So I hope it doesn't come to a point where it becomes a big public fight or debate. I hope it doesn't, because I think both are honored in very appropriate ways. There is a Sue Gunter statue in the concourse of the PMAC, which a lot of people may not know. Sue Gunter is honored with a banner in the PMAC for her accomplishments. You know, there are, there's a lot of different ways people can be honored. Anyway, so that's what Green Z is alluding to there, but I hope it goes no further. All right, it's After Further Review, brought to, or it's not After Further Review, excuse me. It's Morning Scone. We're brought to you by Brock. Always shout out to Brock, Patterns Orthopedic Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. Earl, a lot of great games this weekend, Matt. LSU baseball getting close. Always a great show. Thank you, Earl. Appreciate that. Gary Atchison, morning, Matt and family. Prayers up for Erica's health and healing. Hope Sean Payton doesn't go to the Panthers. Yeah, so the Panthers, that's one other thing maybe I could have put in the headline there. The Panthers have requested permission. They're the latest request permission to interview Sean Payton. That would be an interesting situation. You do have ownership there that is certainly willing to spend. I mean, look at the money that they threw at Matt Rule. Would the Saints want to trade Sean Payton within the division or let him go within the division? I think that's not ideal. I would hate to see that. But an organization he clearly knows a lot about, a division he knows a lot about, it would make a lot of sense from Carolina's standpoint. They do not have a quarterback. So what do they do? Don't know. It was interesting. Somebody tagged me on Twitter. It was a thread from Jim Trotter, who's covered the Chargers organization for nearly 30 years, and laying out all the reasons why the Chargers are not going to fire Brandon Staley and why they wouldn't hire Sean Payton. So that would be interesting, because I think a lot of us have largely assumed, I know I did, that as soon as as soon as the Chargers lost that game, they were going to fire Staley and make Sean Payton their primary target. But pretty compelling argument from Jim Trotter, starting with the fact that Spanos doesn't want to fire Brandon Staley and probably won't. So where are we? Ira Fields, morning, sir. What's the criteria for the replay official or whoever is the ref ear to overturn the results of play? It seems during the replay officials. It seems during the replay official is more involved during the playoffs. There are certain plays, Ira, where the replay official can signal a correction. I don't know the extent of it. I mean, I've been very much in favor of what they've kind of termed sky judge in the past, where you have an official in the booth who's watching the game as we are, who can signal down in very obvious circumstances to the officials to say, hey, the ball's at the 15, or hey, it was a catch. Whatever, so you don't have to stop the game and then go have the on-field official looking at a tiny little screen to make a determination. Kerry Hughes, good morning. Ed Check, good morning. Thanks for the update. Any transfer portal news? Nope. Not that I'm aware of, anyway. We'll wait and see what happens with Walker Howard and what his destination will be. So, I visited Ole Miss. I was told I left Ole Miss, went to TCU. So, sounds like it's an Ole Miss TCU battle. Ole Miss wanted to get a commitment before he left, and apparently did not. But he was, as I understand it, blown away by Ole Miss. I think there's a pretty good shot, man. That there's a pretty good shot that Walker Howard ends up at Ole Miss, man. All right, YouTube, please smash that like button. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. Strong side, the brown suede shoes are fire. Thank you, bro. Brian Wynn, H-Town Creole, Mr. Jones, Cowboys or Bucks? I went Tampa on air. Hard to go against Tom Brady, especially at home. So I know they lost at home last year in the playoffs, and I don't think this Tampa team is very good, as we've talked about throughout the course of the year. But Tom Brady, playoffs at home, with that defense, Dak being turnover prone this year, yeah, I think I'd go Tampa. I'll go Tampa at home to win it. Very curious if the Otter and his crew have any picks, because as I mentioned, they were perfect this weekend. Let's see, basketball imploding or just a slight rough patch? Now, Ed, listen, man. I know that it's hard for people to listen like for 3 hours a day every day, or to all the different. But like we have talked about this now literally since the beginning of the season with LSU basketball. I know a lot of people looked at the didn't watch the team at all, just saw the record and saw they were winning games. But we've talked about this over and over again. LSU loaded up their pre-conference schedule with a bunch of awful teams, and they went 11-1. Their one loss was the loss to Kansas State on the sort of controversial ending down in the Caymans. But their 11 pre-conference wins, 9 were quad 4 wins. And by the way, there's only 4 quadrants, obviously. But they basically loaded up their schedule with terrible teams so they could try to build some confidence and continuity and win some games while they kind of figured out who they had, who could do what. But we talked about this, man. We've talked about this forever. The SEC is good at basketball, and LSU's league schedule, 6 of the first 8 games we talked about were against ranked opponents. And they beat Arkansas, and I think it was a little bit of fool's gold, man. We went to that Arkansas game, and I told you after, hey, if you told me LSU was going to score 60 against Arkansas, I'd believe you. Now, if you told me LSU was going to score 60 and win, I don't think I'd believe that. But they did. Arkansas had an atrocious night shooting the ball, and LSU made some plays late and scratched out a win. But now you've lost 4 in a row. And I told y'all they had to beat A&M and Florida. Otherwise, it was going to be a really long time before they win again. And it's going to be a really long time before they win again. They got blown up by Bama. They've got Auburn coming up this week, which is ranked. Next Saturday, they play 5th-ranked Tennessee. That's not going to be pretty, especially after Tennessee lost to Kentucky. I think they got their wake-up call. They got to go to Arkansas, which is never an easy place to win at Bud Walton. You're home against Texas Tech in the SC Big 12 Challenge. Then you're at 20th ranked Mizzou, home against the Alabama team that just crushed you, and then you're at Mississippi State, which was ranked earlier in the season, but they're 1-4 in the conference right now, and they're sliding. And surprisingly, Georgia was supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league, and they're 3-1 in the conference, and you got to go to Georgia. Then you're home against South Carolina, which is a winnable game. You're home against Vanderbilt, which is a winnable game. You're at Ole Miss, which is the worst team in the league, and you should win that one, even though it's on the road. You're home against Missouri, which is ranked. Then you're at Florida, which already beat you on your floor. So, my hope for this team was to win 8 conference games. I hope they could go 8-10. I think that's optimistic now. I think they're a 5-win basketball team in the conference if they can get to 5. And I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just trying to be realistic. And it's, and this isn't a reactionary, this isn't a reactionary take. I mean, this is what we've talked about from the beginning of the season. I mean, I said it's going to be rough. See if you could beat A&M, Florida in the middle. Going to be really tough to scratch out wins, but your last 7, are attainable. And if you go 5-2 in those last 7, that was kind of the path. But it also included winning against A&M and or Florida, and you got neither of those. So, there's not a good team, man. It's okay. Like, Matt McMahon inherited an awful situation where the entire scholarship roster left, right? Like literally all 13 guys left. So he had to remake a roster and piece it together and find transfers. And you found some good stuff, man. Like Derek Fountain's been really good. KJ Williams is an all-conference caliber player. He's a pro. You found some things that are really good and some that just are not. So get through this. Get through this year because it's going to be bumpy. But he's going to recruit, and hang on one second. I think I hear Drew. Hang on one second. Say hi to Dad, show. Come say hi. Hey. Come say hi to Dad, show. There's my boy. There's my boy. Say good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Dad, show.
Good morning, Dasher.
Well, that was very sweet. Did you sleep so good? Huh? Did you sleep so good? Did you sleep so good? Yeah. What does that say? What does Dad's hat say?
Okay,
Hoco Roofing. Good job. Good job. All right. Let's see. Whoops. Wait.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's see. Let's do a few more minutes here. Get rolling here. No school for Drew today. No work for Erica today. We are doing AFR, regular schedule of shows, so I have a 10 a.m. meeting. So Mimi's going to come watch Drew for a little while because Erica's down and out while I go to this meeting. So Jim Arsenault seems like refs are letting receivers get mugged in the playoffs. They're scared to flag it. Yeah. Tomachita Thomas, good morning. Hey, Dad, good morning. Jerry DeLucky, good morning. Morning, Drew, you too, man. Jim Arsenault, Paul Losi, what's going on? Thank you, Jim. That's very kind of you, man. A couple more. Gregory Gordy, Reed Rule, Scone. What do you make of C.J. Stroud not declaring for the NFL yet? I believe the deadline is today. Be massive for the Buckeyes. I believe the NFL draft deadline is what is today's date? It's the 16th. It is today. Today's the deadline. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I haven't had my coffee. I told y'all yesterday we didn't have coffee, and I didn't make it to the store yesterday, so my body doesn't really get going until until I have my coffee, and I haven't had it, so my brain isn't firing yet. Deadline for the draft is today. Stroud is not yet declared. I can't tell you I have any insight to what's going on there. That is interesting though, especially since they were eliminated in the semifinal. It's possible, I guess, that he has already declared, but just hasn't made it, formal. Like if he's hired an agent, then he's done, right? But we just maybe haven't seen him. Maybe he just hasn't put out his statement yet, or maybe he'll come back. I agree with you. That's massive for Ohio State if he does decide to come back, but that would be foolish. If you're going to be a top 5 pick, you go. I think the lesson learned there was a guy like Matt Barkley, for example. Matt Barkley was going to be potentially the first overall pick in the draft. Decided to go back to USC, and then ended up being a 4th round pick in 2013. Like literally cost him tens of millions of dollars. And each their own. And maybe you can say money's and everything, and that's true, but how often are you going to get that lottery ticket in your hand? Gregory Gordy, can high school seniors skip the letter of intent, go straight into the transfer portal, skip the deadlines, and use it as a loophole? Gregory, you're going to have to help me out here. What would be the point? I'm not understanding what you're asking here. Skip the LOI and go into the portal to skip the deadlines. So you got to keep in mind, Gregory. The window to sign a letter of intent never closes. Okay, but you can only sign an LOI once in your career. I think this is probably a little confusing. Like whenever you transfer, you don't sign a letter of intent. You sign grant and aid paperwork. Basically, you just sign scholarship paperwork. Okay, J.K. Johnson, right? So the cornerback from Ohio State that just transferred to LSU. When he came out of high school, he signed his LOI with Ohio State. You only sign one letter of intent ever. And if you transfer, you don't sign another letter of intent. You sign grant and aid paperwork. It's basically just your scholarship paperwork. So there's no point in doing what you're saying. Like you don't skip the LOI and go into the portal. Like that, I don't even understand what the point of that would be as a loophole. And as far as the deadline, like you can sign an LOI whenever. You don't have to sign your letter of intent in December or February. Like you could wait until, I mean, that happened with that running back. And there was a running back who's a really good player who ended up going to Kansas State. This is like 10 years ago or so. And bounced around a bunch. He was a 5-star. Anyway, but you can sign your letter of intent whenever you want. Like from the time that window opens, you can sign an LOI 100 years from now. Like you graduate high school, you can sign. You could be a 100-year-old college athlete, sign your letter of intent 100 years from now. But the portal windows to jump in the portal are defined. Let's see. Some person saying need to fire the training staff. Why? I mean, they were super unlucky a year ago with a lot of the injuries. I don't know that the training staff. I don't think I can point to anything and say training staff did a poor job this year. Sean Payton starts interviews tomorrow. Yep. The first one to get the interview was Denver, right? On Tuesday. Hang on a second. Right. So you might be just about done, y'all. As always, shout out to Brock. You need orthopedics, go to Brock. Hudco Roofing, love to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Restored Motions, if you got any type of pain, book a session with Crystal Poche. Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com. And ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. EV charging stations, home, office building, inventory on site, electricians ready to install. ProCharge EV. Those transfer portal people have a maximum visit. Yes, players in the portal, same as your recruiting visits. You can have 5 official visits, like in just like coming out of high school, and then an unlimited number of unofficial visits where you pay your way. Let's see. Tramal Kellup, Payton starts his interviews tomorrow. Yep. Brandon Tilley, morning Scone. Burrow and Chase were on fire last night, especially in the first half, man. Jamar was awesome. Scone, do you think it's a concern Mickey giving permission to the Panthers to interview Payton? No, I think that you let anybody interview Sean Payton. I mean, anybody that has, I think, the more teams that are interested, the more likely you can create a bidding war of sorts. And now Sean Payton ultimately is going to try to decide where he wants to go, and ultimately he'll make that decision, and it's up to the Saints to negotiate a deal with that team for his rights. But I think the more competition for Sean Payton, the better for the Saints. So I would hate to see Sean Payton in Carolina, where you had to go against him twice a year. But from Carolina's standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, he knows the division, obviously exceptionally well. They've had a little bit of a merry-go-round with quarterbacks there, post Cam Newton. So what do you do? Uh, some person said the Saints seem to be the only team with players living on IR. Like, you clearly don't watch the NFL. I mean, that's like, the Baltimore Ravens franchise quarterback chose not to play or travel with the team for a playoff game yesterday. Um, Bubba Smith, Tony Williams, Bob Poole, good morning, Bryce Boudreaux, Casey McKenzie beat the hell out of Ryan Moranto. I heard it was a split decision, huh? No, it wasn't a split decision, but it was Casey. It was one judge, but it was when they scored 30-28 or 20. They scored 29-28, I think. Sorry, y'all. I told y'all, man, I hadn't had my coffee yet. It is tough. It's tough to get the wheels in motion right now. Mark, old school Saint shirt. Yeah, man. Super Bowl champion shirt. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I had on my New Orleans Hornet shirt. It was my Saints Super Bowl shirt. Kirk Cousins is snake bitten. No, he's not snake bitten. He's just not a great quarterback. He's enigmatic. There's times where he throws for a ton of yards and looks really good, and then there's times where he loses a home playoff game to Daniel Jones. That's just Kirk Cousins. He's not. It's strange because when you're a starting quarterback in the NFL, you're literally one of the best in the world to do the thing you do. But there are tiers among those, and he's not in the top tier. Videos, okay, baby. Let's see, Mark. Yeah, the Pels play today against the Cavs. The Cavs like 2:30. Okay. Wait, so it was a winner by split decision. It can't be split this. Wait, hang on one second. My apologies, y'all. Sorry, I've been up and down a little bit here, but well, Bryce, it can't be a split decision. Like if you were the announcer and you called a split decision, it was one judge, then you incorrectly called it because there isn't a split. Like a split decision would be whenever multiple judges scored the fight and didn't agree on who the winner was. Like if you had 3 judges and 2 of them scored it for one fighter and 1 of them scored it for another fighter, that would be a split decision. A unanimous decision when all the judges agreed who the winner was. There was only one, as I understand, there's only one judge for this fight, right? So it couldn't have been a split decision. Does that make sense? Like there was only one guy who decided, unless I'm wrong and there were multiple fighters. So if you said split decision, then sorry, bro, you were wrong. Unless again, if there were multiple judges. But as I understand it, I saw Ronnie in the ring announcing it. And he said, so it was 10-9, 10-8, 10-9, right? Yeah, it was Ronnie, yeah. I need to go back. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, I saw Ronnie's deal. Somebody posted on social media. But either way. But they raise a lot of money for charity, which is good. Let's see, a couple more. T-Han, Matt, are you on radio today? Absolutely, yes. Just no school for Drew, so I didn't have to get up and get out of it. But I have a 10 o'clock meeting, so gonna go get showered and change here in a bit. Mimi's coming to pick up Drew at 9:30, and then I'm gonna get out of here. So, Mr. Duga, what's going on? All right. Since when do we have Monday night playoff games? Rob, I'm telling you, man, I don't like it. I think especially for the teams for next week, whoever wins out of Dallas and Tampa is disadvantaged by now having a short week to travel. like let's say Tampa wins, they're going to have to travel on a short week to San Francisco. You have to go across the country on a short week. Unenviable. Okay, I think we're just about done, y'all. Appreciate y'all for being here as always. YouTube, please smash that like button. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe up to the channel if you haven't done so yet. As always, we appreciate y'all for being here. Shout out to Brock, Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. All right. Y'all have an awesome day. If you have the day off, enjoy, get some rest, some R&R. And if you're working, we'll see y'all either way for AFR 3. Peace.